All right, Shalom, Shalom. I'm Y'all coming at you with another lesson straight out the Lions Den camp of Yashala. But before I get started with this lesson, I would like to give all praises to the Heavenly Father in the name of His only begotten Son in their proper true names. We're going to start off by saying, Kal, Halayim, La, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Ha, Rakak, Kwadash, Ma'amah. Definitely want to give double honors to the apostles of GMS and their elders. Definitely want to give double honors to my elder, Harwam, Banyasa, of the Lions Den camp, located right here in Jacksonville, Florida. Shalom to the sincere men, women, and children that believe in the names of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, and that believe in sincerity and the truth. Shalom. All right. And shalom to the Lions Den camp and the rest of the elect that's out there. Shalom. All right. Without further ado, let's get into it, y'all. This lesson is another lesson dealing with prophecy, dealing with the destruction of Babylon, dealing with destruction of America, right? And the prophecies of the Lord of this place being completely destroyed, all right, turned into the lake of fire. All right, that's really what the lake of fire goes into. All right, and it's not talking about you know, hell, which is up under the earth. All right, hell is the grave. All right, but the lake of fire, that's why it says hell will be tossed into the lake of fire. All right, but anyway, back to the actual topic. All right, this article here is from Nation. All right, The Nation. All right, it says the return of the nuclear threat. While most of the world looked away, a new nuclear arms race has broken out between the U.S., Russia, and China, raising the risk of nuclear confrontation to the highest in decades. Right. So the first nuclear arms race, right? Let's get it. Will be between the Soviet Union and America. All right. It says this is AI overview. All right. When was the first nuclear race? It says the first nuclear arms race is generally considered to have begun in 1949 when the Soviet Union successfully tested its first atomic bomb. Just 4 years. All right, just 4 years after the U.S. dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. All right, this event marked the beginning of a period where the U.S. and the Soviet Union and later other nations engaged in a competition to develop and deploy more advanced nuclear weapons. All right, so here we go all over again, right? But this is for, and it was all set up for World War III. That's the whole reason why the Lord, um, gave the wisdom knowledge to these Edomites to create nuclear weapons, because it's all part of the Lord's armory. You know, He could have gave them anything to bring forth World War III, or He could have came up with anything, but He chose to use fire, and how He was going to use the fire was through ICBMs. All right, so the article, it says a few days before Joe Biden left the White House, his under security, secretary, for nuclear security at the Energy Department, Dr. Jill Hirubi. I'm going to just call her Dr. Jill. Dr. Jill took the stage at a Washington, D.C. think tank and described in grim detail the instability of our nuclear armed world. Russia, Dr. Jill said, has in recent years stationed tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus, withdrawn its ratification of the comprehensive test ban treaty, and lowered its threshold for nuclear weapon use. It also seems to be exploring new nuclear weapons delivery technology, right? So I was just reading an article on that, of them now trying to use hypersonic missiles to deliver other missiles, right? Because hypersonic missiles can't, they don't really travel that far, like ICBMs. ICBMs will go all the way up until the top of the atmosphere, right? To go from one continent to the next. And they're typically can hit Mach 5 anyways, right? But these new hypersonic missiles go a little bit faster, right? And then they're not completely surpassing Mach 5, as of yet, but they go a little bit faster than these ICBMs, right? And the whole point is to basically be able to launch a missile, right, before and be excuse me, let me rephrase that. The whole point of them doing that is to be able to create a missile to be able to go from one continent, more than likely to America, without being detected, right? I think the article was saying something about 10 minutes. That it'll take 10 minutes from it to go from, I forgot where it said in China, Guam to I'm sorry, somewhere in China, to from there to hit Guam. It will only take 10 minutes. All right, and the Guam is like that's another American. It's basically ran by America. All right, so it was just giving an example in that particular article, but it takes 10 minutes. There's no way they can basically stop that missile, right? For one, it's just them detecting it. It's going to take time for them, to be able to set up, to be able to blow that missile out, or rather send a drone out to go blow up that missile, or a jet or whatever, right? So it takes a little time. All right. But anyways, that's the whole point of them, coming up with new ideas. China's smart, man. That's the whole point of them coming up with new ideas to, um, ultimately it's coming from Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, right? Giving them that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. But the whole point of them trying to do that is be able to get certain missiles to certain places without being detected or without being destroyed, right? And that's the whole point of the Lord giving them that wisdom, knowledge, understanding, right? And it's all because the Lord has an indignation against Babylon, America, right? For this place has to be destroyed. Thus saith the Lord. All right, but back to the article, it says, and lowered its threshold for nuclear weapon use. It also seems to be exploring new nuclear weapons delivery technologies, including space-based weapons. All right, so including space-based weapons. All right, so you see China going into putting a new supercomputer up into space, right? They're doing a lot of stuff. They're trying to put a lot of stuff up into the Shemayim, man. All right. All right, but again, this is the Lord bringing forth the weapons of his indignation, man. All right. Matter of fact, let me just grab that real quick. My phone at, right? All right, so this is, that's another one. It's Jeremiah 50 and 22. A sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction. All right, so a sound of battle, everybody's being gathered to the valley of Jehoshaphat. The Lord is bringing everybody there to for World War III, to start this nuclear war, right? To bring judgment, to plead with them, which it means judgment, to bring judgment among to them, right? Jeremiah 50 and 23. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon becoming desolation among the nations, right? So this place is destined to be destroyed, man. Just like the ancient Babylon, right? The daughter of Babylon has the same prophecy for her, man. But with this one, it's going to be through ICBM nuclear destruction, all right? Completely, this land will be completely on fire, man. All right. It says, I have, right, and see, this in America is the hammer of the whole earth, man. Who was the first ones to drop these atomic bombs, man? Right, just like we was reading, America dropped it first, right, on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and it was all a setup from the Most High, right? He allowed them to be able to create these things, to basically start creating the weapons of his indignation, the Lord's indignation, right? The Lord's weaponries, right, out of his armory, to basically allow these other nations to basically now it's a race, just like the race to the moon, right? So now all these other nations going to try to keep up with America, building these nuclear these ICBMs or these warheads, right? Nuclear missiles to be able to keep up with America. That's the whole point, right? So the Lord put it in one nation. Now these other nations going to try to do the same thing because if America was the only one with the nuclear strength, right, that means America will run the whole world, and these other countries don't, they don't want to be at the bottom like that, especially now, right? China's sick of being, they're sick of America. Russia's sick of America. All these countries are sick of America. Russia wants to be back on top. They want to be back on the top of the GDP, man. They want to be at the top. They don't want to be under the foot of America. So that's the whole point. The Lord knew what He was doing. So He allowed America to create these missiles, right? So these other people can, other nations, Russia, China, so on and so on, Iran, North Korea. Now everybody has nuclear weapons, right? And it was done that way, you know, to bring forth the Lord's prophecies of the destroying or destruction of America, man, and the state of Israel. All right, that was the whole point. So now we are in a nuclear arms race. All right, all these countries getting their nukes together, right? And it's inevitable, man. These nukes will be shot off, and it will be shot onto America. All right. It says, but this is the hammer of the whole earth, man. And the Lord is, and their sins have reached to the top of the heavens, man. You know, it says, verse 24. I have laid a snare for thee. See, that's that snare the Lord laid out for them. It's gonna backfire on them. Them dropping the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? That was that snare. Now America is set for 200 million warheads to hit that place, man. Hit America. You know, it's almost like you reap what you sow, right? But the Lord put it in their mind to create these weapons, right? Because that was that trap, that was that snare, right? It says, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou was not aware. See, because in their mind, they thinking, oh, we finna be running the world now. We got the atomic bomb. We got, big boy, fat man, little, what's it called? With atomic bombs. I believe it's Fat Boy and Little Man, if I'm not mistaken. All right, so now everybody has nuclear weapons now, right? So what you gonna do, America? Because the Lord has a bullseye on this place, man. All right, ready to shoot those arrows off and destroy this place, right? Arrows going into those ICBMs, right? It says, "O Babylon, and thou wast not aware; thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven." Right? They striven against the Lord, man. They have come against the Lord. It says, verse 25, Yahweh have opened his armory and have brought forth the weapons of his indignation. For this is the work of the Lord power, right? Of our Lord Yahweh of hosts, right? Of armies in the land of the Chaldeans, right? For this is the work of the Lord, right? Yahweh of armies in the land of the Chaldeans, right? As it reads, it says, verse 26, right? Remember, these are his weapons of indignation, right? It says, come against her from the outermost border upon her storehouses, cast her up as heaps, and destroy her utterly. Let nothing of her be left. Slay all her bullocks. Let them go down to the slaughter. Woe unto them, for their day is come, the time of their visitation. See, ooh, when the Lord come to visit, man, sheesh, he's utterly destroy this place, man. But our hope is to be saved out of it. The 144 elect, Yahweh Ratazan, part of that number, and the 1/3 men, women, and children. All right. Verse 28, the voice of them that flee and escape out of the land of Babylon, to declare in Zion the vengeance of the Lord. See, it's the Lord's vengeance, right? It's Yahweh's vengeance, our power, the vengeance of his temple. Right, call together the archers against Babylon. All ye that bend the bow, camp against it round about. Let none thereof escape. Recompense her according to her work, man. See, bringing it back upon our own head. That was that snare that the Lord set. All these other nations now have ICBMs, nuclear weapons, right, and are ready to go to war with America, man. Right, no longer cowering, um, you know, or being afraid of America. Right now, they have the strength to come against this place. Right, let none of their Right back at the scripture, it says, "Let none therefore thereof, Salakia, escape. Recompense her according to her work, according to all that she hath done, do unto her. For she hath been proud against Yahweh, against the Holy One of Israel." Man. Therefore shall her young men fall in the streets, and all her men of war shall be cut off in that day, saith the Lord Yahweh. Ooh. Verse 31, "Behold, I am against thee." See, the Lord is against this place, man. You know, this place is destined for destruction during World War III. "Behold, I am against thee, O thou most proud." See, and then you know how proud America is. Look at who's leading America right now. You know, with that prideful mindset, man. And it says, "And all her, Slakia," it says, "Saith the Lord, behold, I am against thee, O thou most proud, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts," right? "For thy day is come, the time that I will visit thee, and the most proud shall stumble and fall, and none shall raise him up. And I will kindle a fire in his cities, and it shall devour all round about him. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts," right? "The children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. Their Redeemer is strong." See, all of these nations, man, throughout centuries, man, throughout all these years, have continuously had their hand on us, man. They have put a yoke on us, oppressed us, man. You know, and the Lord is our Redeemer, as it reads in 34. There, right? Who is there? Right? Who is that? The them that they are talking about, right? The Israelites, as it just read in 33. "Thus saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together." Man, the northern and southern kingdom, right? Back at 34, it says their Redeemer is strong, man. So when Yahweh shall come back, man, the Lord's right hand, man, and nothing's gonna stop Yahweh Shai in that day, man. Nothing. He's not coming as a man. He's not going to meet us as a man. He's not going to meet them as a man. Right? It says the Lord Yahweh of hosts is his name, man. So right. So when Yahweh sends Yahweh Shai, man, it's a wrap, man. Cause you know, but Yahweh Shai is sitting on the right hand of the Father, patiently waiting. You know, it says he shall thoroughly plead their case, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. Right. So verse 35, "A sword is upon the Chaldeans, saith the Lord Yahweh, and upon the inhabitants of Babylon." See, that's that sword, those ICBMs, "and upon her princes," right, "and upon her wise men," right? So all these scholars and all the men that these presidents and um, judges and councilmen, you know, all of them, right? A sword is sent against all of that, man, right? Right, and back 36, "A sword is upon the liars." Right? See, and these false prophets, right? And they shall die. "A sword is upon her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed." Damn, Lord ain't playing, man. Back at the article though. All right, it says, all right, we're about right up in here somewhere, right? Space-based weapons. All right, it says, "Further south, China is rapidly expanding the size of its nuclear arsenal and appears to be moving away from a non-first use policy for launching nuclear weapons. North Korea persists in building up its nuclear program." It says, "Rattling the region with its regular missile tests, with Pakistan is developing its own intercontinental ballistic missile capabilities, and Iran continues to enrich uranium." All right, so all of these places, man, are getting ready for World War III. The Lord is putting it in all of the kings, all right, minds to bring forth his weapons of indignation, man. Right, he's giving them this, the courage, the knowledge, the to be able to build these nuclear arsenals, man. It says in her speech, Dr. Jill, right, did not offer many details about what U.S. allies such as Israel and India, right, and see, India's also right. They going through it right now, right. So all of these places that just named, right, all of these places are either in some type of proxy wars or just like North Korea, they're helping out. Excuse me, they're helping out Russia, right? Because the BRICS nation, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South America, right? Pretty much all of them are at it with other countries right now, man. Besides Brazil, Russia with Ukraine, right? You got India, you got China, you got. I mean, it's everywhere, man. you know, China dealing with Taiwan, not Taiwan, but yeah, Taiwan. North Korea with South Korea. You got Iran, dealing with Israel, shoot, and America. And America's supposed to be back in all these places, back in India, and India's going. They trying to get their land back as well, right? So, the Lord is stirring up the, He's stirring up the kings, man, getting them ready for World War III. He's bringing all of the major players um into position, all right, and getting them ready for World War III. All right, it says right, it says such as Israel and India are up to, although she might have, right? It says Israel, I'm sorry, they too are contributing to this equilibrium. Israel is perhaps the latest transparent of the world's nuclear powers. It said Israel is perhaps the least transparent of the world's nuclear powers, right? So, Israel like to hide their hand, the state of Israel, right? So they trust me, they got a bunch of nukes they sitting on. You got to remember who they backed by. They backed by the banking families, man. You best believe they got probably some of the best nuclear arsenal that they sitting on, right? That they ain't telling nobody about, right? But all these major powers, right? All these major countries, right? The Lord is building them up to, bring forth His weapons of indignation, man. For World War III. It says Israel is perhaps the least transparent of the world's nuclear powers, unwilling even to acknowledge that it has a weapons program. India, meanwhile, is actively building up its nuclear stockpile. Right? See, that's part of the BRICS. Right? It says meanwhile, Salaki for the interruption. All right, it says India, meanwhile, is actively building up its nuclear stockpile. France has signaled in recency. Now, France getting involved, right? France has signaled, right? Part of NATO has signaled in recent months that it may try to establish its own nuclear umbrella. They're gonna have to because they're part of the 10. Um, they're part of the 10 that's gonna turn against the war, man. Which is America, the one that rides upon the scarlet color beast in Revelation. It's talking about America. It says France has signaled in recent months that it may try to establish its own nuclear umbrella in Europe as the United States wavers in its commitment to NATO. See, just speaking of, those 10 horns that's going to turn against NATO, man. I mean America, and those 10 are a part of NATO. All right. So as it was just saying that, United States is wavering basically with its commitment to NATO. It says, and in South Korea, officials have made noise in recent years about the possibility of obtaining nuclear weapons to counter their enemies in the North. See, North Korea. See, Lord is getting everybody ready, man. Gathering everybody ready to the Valley of Jehoshaphat. He's amping up everybody's nuclear arsenal, man. And this is whoo. 200 million. Scriptures say 200 million warheads, man. And people doubt that, man, because for one, it could be a bunch of nuclear warheads into one ICBM, right? But imagine how many ICBMs are going to be in the sky that day. You know, imagine all countries shooting off their nuclear weapons, man. They ICBMs all at one time, aimed at America. Man, shit gonna be crazy, man. It says, as for United States, it is not merely observing change. It is not merely observing change. Dr. Jill assured her audience, we are advancing change on our own. The country, in this quote, that was end quote, Salaki. The country, she said, is currently engaged in a massive nuclear modernization program. So they kind of, because look, they we have been doing lessons on, my elder did a lesson on the Tsar Bomba, different missiles from that Russia has, different missile and technology that China has, right? America is outdated, man, and they know they're outdated. So they trying to change quick, man. They trying to get their program together quick because they're losing the race right now. It says the country, she said, is currently engaged in a massive nuclear modernization program which will see its replace or upgrade every element of its nuclear stockpile over the next 3 decades while also developing new weapons like a sea-launched nuclear cruise missiles, right? Because they know that Russia has one that's called the Poseidon, man, and that can cause major tsunamis, man. So America trying to catch up. They behind in the race. They behind a couple laps, man. They done been lapped already. If you know anything about on track, running track. All right. It says or race cars. A car can get lapped. Basically they done completed one whole lap. And passed the guy. So that's where America's at, man. They done been passed. They done been lapped. It says like a sea-launched nuclear cruise missile, among other things. The modernization program will also reestablish key production capabilities that were lost at the end of the Cold War. The program, which President Barack Obama initiated in 2010, will cost more than 1.2 trillion. Some say as much as 1.7 trillion through 2046. With our eyes wide open, Dr. Jill told the crowd, right, quote, we have laid out a path to sustain credible nuclear deterrence, end quote. Dr. Jill delivered the simulation in the bloodiless tone of the bureaucrat, but there was no mistaking her message. The status quo of the previous 80 years, in which there were only two dominant nuclear powers, each deterred from launch by the doctrine of mutually assured. I hate that damn blue color. I can barely see that. Mutually assured destruction is over. We are entering a multipolar nuclear world. And this is what prompted me to do this lesson, man. Of course, the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, the Holy Spirit jumped on me, of course, to do a lesson on this. Right? But when I saw this, that hit, I was like, dang, she said something then. We are entering a multipolar nuclear world. One where China joins Russia and the U.S. as a peer, and where the old nuclear guardrails are breaking down. Indeed, only one major arms control treaty remains between the U.S. and Russia, the New START Treaty, which expires in February 2026. If the two countries fail to negotiate new nuclear restraints, they could begin increasing the number of deployed nuclear warheads for the first time in 35 years. Right, end quote, said Darlene Kimball, the executive director of the Arms Control Association. Let me read that again, man. It says, It says we are entering a multipolar nuclear world, one where China joins Russia and the U.S. as a peer. And see, it is no longer just the Soviet Union and America no more, right? Now China's in the mix, right? And Russia is coming up, and they are already going back to their old Soviet ways, you know. So it says as a peer. So now it's like everybody strapped up with a glizzy face ass. Just joking, just joking. But nah, but yeah, it says it says indeed. So like it says, one where China joins Russia and the U.S. as a peer, and where the old nuclear guardrails are breaking down. Indeed, only one major arms control treaty remains between the U.S. and Russia: the New START Treaty, which expires in February 2026. If the two countries, that's less than a year from now, right? If the two countries fail to negotiate new nuclear restraints, and look who we got in office, man. When is he ever able to make deals like that? I mean, his first term, yeah, but in this term, brother, like, your deal making ain't too good right now, you know. So I don't see this deal going through of a new treaty being, as Pastor Tahar said, this may be our year of salvation, our year of deliverance, man. You know, and and the New Year's in April, so if this treaty don't go through next month, we could be right. It could pop off in March. World War III. And it's full scale, right? And that's what we're looking for. We looking to be delivered, man. We sick of being in Babylon. You know, we sick of being oppressed. We sick of being, um, you know, in sin, man. We want to be on the right hand. We want to be in righteousness under Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, man. You know. All right. I'm gonna grab some precepts real quick, man. All right, this is. Hold up, didn't I have Jeremiah 13? Oh yeah, that's going into World War III destruction. All right, Isaiah 13, subtitled "Judgment of the Day of the Lord." How ye for the day? I can really start from one, man. Isaiah 13:1. The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amoz did see, lift ye up a banner, to that enzyme, man. All right, upon the high mountains, exalt the voice unto them, shake the hand, that they may go into the gates of the nobles. They say we're doing that today, man. All right, going out on the highways, byways, teaching, right, blowing the trumpet, telling our people of the upcoming destruction, doing videos, right, going live, you know, one-on-one talks, if from some Akim. We're raising that banner, man. Our salvation is near, right? The destruction of Babylon, America is in the midst, man. Right, verse 3: I have commended my sanctified. I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones from my anger, even them that rejoice in my highness. Right, the noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord Yahweh of hosts mustereth the host of the battle, man. Right, so the Lord is getting everybody in place, man, to bring forth the World War III. Right, gathering them to the valley of Jehoshaphat. Right, he's getting the armory on point. Right, he's building up their armory. I mean, right? He's gathering everybody into this war, man. The sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones for my anger, even them that rejoice in my highness, man. Everybody's being called to this, man. Um, it's like, the gospel has been going out across, all four corners of the earth, north, east, south, and west, on this beautiful globe that we live on, man. So it's a beautiful thing to see this gospel being spread. through all four corners of the earth, right? And we also see the prophecies being manifested right in front of our eyes, man. You know, it says, they come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Lord, right, Yahweh, and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land, right? So when these missiles, man, they can literally go, especially Russia's, theirs can go from Russia straight to America, right? Straight out of their silos, man. So when these things get shot up, they get shot up into the top, all the way to the top of the atmosphere, man. So, and these are the weapons of the Lord's indignation, right? So when these things come, they're gonna be coming from far, and it's just to destroy the whole land, right? Verse 6, howl ye, for the day of the Lord Yahweh is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. See, this is coming from the Almighty. Therefore shall all hands be faint, every man's heart shall melt, and they shall be afraid. Pains and sorrows shall take hold of them. See, can you imagine, being looking up and you see all these missiles in the sky? Man, can you imagine, just like right now, you listen to some of them Palestinians or them Israelis, right? They in pains and sorrows now as they hear those bombs go off from close to their house. Everybody's afraid. Everybody's afraid of World War III. That's why they had signed the treaties in the first place, man. Right? But nothing can stop this from coming, man. Nothing. Matter of fact, this is Second Esdras, chapter 16. And 9, right? A fire shall go forth from his wrath. I kind of want to start up, but I'll start up a little bit. It's Second Esdras 16 and 1. It says, woe be unto thee, Babylon and Asia. Woe be unto thee, Egypt and Syria. Gird up yourselves with cloths of sack and hair, so like you bewail your children and be sorry, for your destruction is at hand. Right, and that's that's what's gonna happen, man. That's really what's happening now, right? But we don't see it in its full extent yet, right? Especially here in Babylon, right? Because they still thinking, everything is okay over here, right? But those pains and sorrows will be on them. They are on some people, right? Especially some of the new babes that's in this truth, right? That might not have the whole understanding yet, or any, especially these, I'm just basically saying that these pains and sorrows are on the minds of some of these people, man. You know, it says a sword is sent upon you, and who may turn it back? A fire is sent among you, and who may quench it? Plagues are sent unto you, and what is he that may drive them away? May any man drive away a hungry lion in the wood? Or may anyone quench the fire and stubble when it hath begun to burn? May one turn again the arrow that is shot of a strong archer? And that's the point, man. Nobody can stop the Lord's indignation, man. You know, you can't stop his wrath, man. You can't stop his prophecies. Verse 8, the mighty Lord sendeth the plague. See, he sendeth the plagues. And who is he that can drive them away? A fire shall go forth from his wrath. And who is he that may quench it? Right. So it's like when he destroyed and doing the first death was with water. The second death was gonna be with fire, man. You know, and that's how the Lord set it up. He could have set it up any other way, but when he set it up, because as you learn, you'll learn that fire is the best purging or cleansing agent, man. To uh, basically purge out the impurities, man. It says a fire shall go forth from his wrath, and who is he that may quench it? He shall cast lightnings, and who shall not fear? He shall thunder, and who shall not be afraid? The Lord shall threaten, and who shall not be utterly beaten to powder at his presence, right? See, and ain't no getting around it, right? The earth quaketh, and the foundation thereof, the sea rises up with waves from the deep, right? And that's going into those ICBMs hitting America, those 200 million missile warheads hitting this place, as well as those which can cause earthquakes, and earthquakes cause tsunamis, as well as those ICBMs, underwater ICBMs that Russia has and America is trying to create, right? Those cause tsunamis as well, man. It says, the sea arises up with waves from the deep, and the waves of it are trouble, and the fishes thereof also before the Lord and before the glory of his power. Right? See, even the fishes. Imagine how big our waters are, man. How deep they are. Even the fish is gonna be be feeling this pressure, man, from the Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Verse 13, for strong is his right hand, right? Yahweh Shai that bendeth the bow, his arrows that he shooteth are sharp and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world. Right? And see, that's the point, man. See, when these missiles, World War III kick off, when these ICBMs go up, you know, it says strong is his right hand, man. Who's gonna be able to stop these arrows? Man, what the? It says, yeah. I'll go ahead and finish up. 14, behold, the plagues are sent and shall not return again until they come upon the earth. The fire is kindled. See, the Lord is angry, man, right? And shall not be put out till it consume the foundation of the earth, man. So, right. So, why the Lord being angry, right? When he bring forth this World War III, right? Burn this place to the ground, America, right? It's gonna burn for a very, 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 very long time, man. You're gonna see that smoke continuously going up for those who make it through, right? Verse 16, like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer returneth not backward, even so the plagues that shall be sent upon earth shall not return again. And, you know, so back at Isaiah 13, I forgot why I left off at verse 8. And they shall be afraid, pangs and sorrows shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another. Their face shall be as flames. Behold, the day of the Lord Yahweh cometh cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger. See, the Lord is pissed, man, to lay the land desolate, right? Babylon. And he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. For the stars of heaven and the constellation thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. And I will punish the world for their evil and the wicked of their iniquity. And I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. I will make a man more precious than fine gold. That'll be us. Even a man than the gold wedge of Ophir. All right, so when they're going for the stars of heaven and the constellations there, verse 10 shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened, and his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. Right? We can look at the article and see that. Right? This is what you're going to see. Right? Where's my curse at? Oh, yeah, you're going to see this right here. Right? That mushroom cloud, man, with all this debris, all this elements um and dust, and everything that comes out of a nuclear blast, man, it's gonna be in the skies, man. And it's gonna fill the skies. It's gonna cover the stars. It's gonna cover the moon, and make this moon look a certain color. It's gonna make the sun look blackened, darkened. All right, the moon's not gonna be able to give its light like all of that, man. Reflection of the light, none of that, man. It's like, all of this stuff is going, 200 million. You gotta remember that, man. It's not gonna just be one explosion, right? You're gonna have a bunch of them, and all of that debris and dust and particles, right, are gonna go into the Shemayim, all that nuclear fallout, right? That's the word I was looking for, nuclear fallout. Going to the skies, man, and it's gonna cover up everything, right? Verse 13. Therefore, I will shake the heavens, right? That destruction, right? World War III, ICBMs, and the earth shall remove out of her place, in the wrath of the Lord Yahweh, right? of hosts, and in the day of his fierce anger. And it shall be as a chased roe and as a sheep that no man taketh up. That was pretty much the point. All right, let's go to hold on, make sure I ain't missed that. All right, come on. There we go. This is Revelation 6 and 12, right? The subtitle says the sixth seal. All right. Terror. It says, verse 12, and I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. See, that goes into that nuclear fallout, man. Because anytime it's nuclear waste or some type of uh, chemicals or debris that's in the sky, when you look at the moon through the, it's like looking at the moon through a filter, right? It changes the colors of the moon. The moon is going to appear to be bloody or red or orange, right? The sun is going to appear to be black and blacked out, right? So all this is coming through the nuclear destruction, man. World War III is inevitable, man. It's going to happen. All right. It says, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. It says, and the stars of heaven fell into, like, 1 second. All right, it says, and the stars of heaven fell into the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. See, imagine a fig tree, right, with all these ripe figs on the tree, and a mighty wind comes shake that tree, right? Imagine it being like on top of a mountain or something, and you at the bottom of the mountain. When you see that them figs fall, that's what the missile's gonna look like in that day. Those ICBMs, man. It's gonna look like a shaking fig tree. Figs, a whole bunch of missiles coming out of the sky at one time, man. Alright, it says, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs, when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. That mushroom cloud we were just looking at, and every mountain and every island were moved out of their places, man. So that's a major catastrophic event, man. Right, the mushroom cloud, right? Um, that's gonna cause the earth to rock to and fro, man. It's gonna cause the earth to rock on its axis, man. You know how powerful that is? Man, the whole world's gonna feel it. The whole world ain't gonna be destroyed, but the whole world gonna feel it. All right, it says, verse 15, the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man hid themselves in the den. These are the ones that's left over who wasn't saved, right? Because the ones that's destined for salvation will be beamed up into those chariots when the Lord said, come up hither, and be changed in the twinkle of an eye, right? And whoever is left that made it through the destruction, right? If you in America, and you ain't saved by the Lord, you done. But for these other countries, right, they, that's gonna get hit as well. They're gonna be hiding in dens, man. And they're gonna say, verse 16, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne. Talking about Yahweh, and from the wrath, or talking about Yahweh, and from the wrath of the Lamb, which is talking about Yahweh. All right, so they want to be hidden, man. They want to hide from Yahweh and Yahweh. It says, but that's the Lord gonna tell us, the elect, right, to go out there and gather them out of those bunkers, man. Verse 17, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand, man? Just like we was reading in 2nd Ezra 16, man. Right? Who could stop this from coming, man? Who's gonna be able to stand in that day? Right? The only ones who have a chance out of this, man, is the elect and the 1/3. All right. Jeremiah 51:7, Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, Yahweh's hand, that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore the nations are mad, man. See, and it's not talking about mad as in angry, right? All these nations took on the dollar, right? They took on the philosophies, right? They took on everything that America, that's that golden cup, man. They took on everything from America, right? The religion, the money, right? Even going into far as them creating these ICBMs, man. They want to be just like America, all right? But these countries, these other nations, right? Come on, phone, man. It's gonna be acting slow. 1 second, like for the interruption. My son just came home, but yeah. So all these other nations are foolish, man. You know, and they know that they were being fools, right? Following behind America with all that dumb shit, right? This is why they're turning against America now, right? Um, Verse 8, and Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her? Take balm for her pain. If so be she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, right? See, because when the righteous ruleth, man, everything is rejoicing, man. But when the wicked is ruling, man, everything is in mourning, right? And just like these foolish nations, man, right? Like the Mexicans say, "What up, fool?" They some fools. So it says, forsake her, right? And let us go everyone to his own country, for her judgment reacheth unto heaven. See that her judgment reacheth unto heaven. And right now, this is the place of salvation, man. We're not here to flee. We spiritually get our minds out of this place, right? But this is the place of salvation. And let us go everyone to his own country, for her judgment reacheth unto heaven. See, it reacheth unto heaven. The Lord is pissed, man, and is lifted up even to the skies. Yahweh hath brought forth our righteousness. Come and let us declare in Zion the work of the Lord our power. Right? Yahweh our power. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. Yahweh hath raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, right? Going into like a place like Russia. Right? For his device is against Babylon to destroy it. Because it is the vengeance of the Lord, Yahweh, the vengeance of his temple, right, man? And it's the Lord's vengeance, man, to destroy this place, right? So he's raising up the BRICS nation, right? As it was saying, the spirit of the kings of the Medes, right? The Lord has raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, right? So, go in there just a little second, I end it. All right, this is the BRICS, man, right? Iran became a member of the BRICS group, officially joining with effect from January 1st, 2024. The BRICS group initially consists of Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. South Africa's going through it right now, right? China's going through it with America. India's going through it. Russia's going through it. These are the kings, man. The Lord is dealing with Russia, right? Who's going to be a guard until to these all these other nations, Ezekiel 38, right? All these people that are part of the BRICS, you know. So the Lord is already raising them up and getting all of them ready for World War III. Right? But this is the spirit of the kings of the Medes that the Lord is stirring up, right? As we were just reading, right? Verse 11, make bright the arrows, and that's what the Lord is doing, man. Making bright the arrows, gather the shields, right? The Lord Yahweh have raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, right? And so at the end of the day, these iron domes ain't gonna save nobody, man. They're holding right now because it's just not that time just yet, right? We're still waiting on the MOTB to be fully um, manifested. It's been manifested, right? But it's not been pushed around the whole world, right? Sweden, places in America, certain places like Wisconsin, all these places have already been CHIP'd, right, with that RFID, right? But it has to be implemented to the whole world, right? It says, for his device is against Babylon to destroy it, right? So the Lord wants to destroy this place, man, with ICBMs, his devices, his weapons of his indignation, right? Because it is the vengeance, right? It is the vengeance of Yahweh, the vengeance of his temple. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and end it there, man. But I just wanted to go into um, World War III destruction, man, because the Lord is getting all these nations ready, man. I would have went back to this article, but it's pretty freaking long. Um, it's really long, so if you want to go back and read it, that's fine. All right. Yeah, that's pretty much it, though, man. I ain't gonna. I'll just end it there. So, Lord, when this lesson was edifying, all right. How Ratazada's lesson was edifying for to who it need to be edifying to. Shalom to the Lions Den camp and the rest of the elect that's out there. Shalom.